So you've made some big news here as it relates to this case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the wrongly deported migrant who the Trump administration is now refusing to return despite conceding in court that it was the result of an administrative error. Can you explain what you're seeking to do right now?
Sure. I mean, first, I think it's really important to note that Donald Trump is basically defying a unanimous decision of the Supreme Court to return him to the United States. This is unprecedented. It is completely unconstitutional. He is defying the nation's highest court, and I think we should all be very concerned. So what we're saying, and myself as well as Representative Maxwell Frost, who are both on oversight together, is we're demanding that oversight send us to El Salvador. We need to go to the prison. We need to talk to the government, and we need to interject in what is a very serious situation, not just for him, but for other folks that are in that prison. Sending a legal resident, someone that's here legally, regardless of whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, here legally, to a foreign prison is insane, and it's got to be stopped.
Okay, so you're seeking to go, it's called a CODEL, which is basically an official congressionally sponsored trip with the requisite protections that you would need if you're going to a foreign country. What is the difference here in terms of what you would be afforded by going via a CODEL and just opting to go in your personal capacity, for example?
Yeah, so I think there's obviously I think going as part of an official congressional delegation is always best. But we're looking at all options here, and so I think what's really important is if Republicans choose and refuse to approve a CODEL, Maxwell and I are still talking about how we can get down to El Salvador and ask questions. We're still members of Congress. There are other members of Congress and the Senate that also want to go to El Salvador. So I think there are efforts by a lot of folks to make this happen. Maxwell and I are both on oversight. This is the job of the Oversight Committee.
Right.
We should be down there right now investigating what is happening on behalf of the Congress, and we would be happy to have Republicans join us. But something's got to be done to stop what is happening to people here that are in this country. And you saw yourself, Donald Trump even is now essentially opening the door to do this to U.S. citizens.
Right.
And so it's really crazy.
Is there any concern that you would have, especially if you did have to opt to go in your personal capacity? And we'll talk about James Comer, his likelihood to approve in just a moment. I'm going to ask you about that after this. But do you have any concern that if you do opt to go in your personal capacity with regard to safety issues? I mean, going into a country where we've seen that the president is a self-styled dictator and clearly isn't moved by even what the highest court in our country is saying. And so the notion that he would feel some type of obligation to protect people once they get there doesn't seem like it's too high on his priority list.
Yeah, I understand that. I think that, part of the moment that we're in right now is I hope people understand that we're in a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
The President of the United States has defined the Supreme Court. So if we're not willing in Congress to stand up and do the right thing, regardless of the risks involved, I'm not sure that we're doing our jobs right now. I think, no one else is going to stop this. And this is our job to do so. And we can't just sit around and wait for something to happen. I think we have to take as much action as possible. And so I think, look, I'm committed to going. I think Maxwell's committed to going. There are others that are having these discussions, and whether or not it's officially sanctioned by the Republican majority as part of a CODEL, because they do have the majority in Congress, it's their decision. We're working on ways of getting down there and addressing this ourselves.
Well, look, I appreciate the posture. I appreciate the fight. Obviously, you and I have had this conversation numerous times now, and it's been a drum I've been beating for a long time. So it doesn't go unnoticed here. To the point that I was making earlier, James Comer has to approve this. Why would he approve this, knowing that shining a spotlight on this issue is probably going to be politically disadvantageous for his party? And so, do you expect that he would approve this CODEL?
Well, he should. Look, we're doing it the right way. We're making an official request to James Comer. We've made that request. This is the way that we make these requests to travel abroad and lead these delegations. He should do the right thing. He should also want to know what's happening in El Salvador. He should also want to know if there's human rights abuses going. He can bring and appoint Republicans to make this a CODEL that's bipartisan if he wants. And so he has a broad authority here to make the right decision and the right call. And that's one that he should make. But he should also know that his decision is not going to stop us from making an effort to getting down there and investigating and doing the right thing. That's what's really important.
Is there any sense in that respect, basically the difference between going in your personal capacity and going with a Codel would be that you would be afforded more security, for example. Is there any sense, given the fact that he is your colleague, somebody who you work with, and that you have, I don't know, a human connection with this person, that knowing you're going to go anyway, he has the ability to at least make sure you're safe? Do you think that that's at least, plays into his decision making at all?
I mean, it should. I mean, look, I think anyone should want to ensure that other members of Congress are safe, and he should
Right.
absolutely be interested in that. And he should approve this codel. Whether or not he does that, we'll see. But certainly, we'll take whatever precautions are necessary. But at the end of the day, we can't all just sit here and see this unravel as Donald Trump defies a unanimous decision of the Supreme Court. I mean, we're talking about the most conservative justices that are on the court agreed all together that he should be brought back to the United States. And Stephen Miller and Donald Trump take that decision and warp its result, and basically are now saying that, oh no, the results actually agree with what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, that is adamantly false. And so
Right.
I think we just got to make a stronger effort here.
Can I get your reaction to that? Because there is this, left is right, up is down sense going on here, where we have a 9-0 decision against the Trump administration. Every Supreme Court justice, including Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, agreeing that this guy should be sent back because the Trump administration itself conceded that his deportation was an administrative error. And yet the Trump administration is sitting here trying to claim that they won this case unanimously. I mean, what planet are we on that they're trying to get away with this?
I mean, that's exactly the issue. And I think what's really concerning is that they could care less about what the actual law actually says. We've seen that already. They have worked for years to destroy and dismantle the press, to cause people to distrust reporting, to distrust the media. And now they basically say, oh, look, the sky is red. And then the sky is red. And a lot of people in this country believe whatever Donald Trump says, regardless of the facts. The facts are that in a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court has told the administration to bring him back. That is not happening. They're defying the Supreme Court. An equal branch of government, by the way, and Congress is as well. And so we've got to just get much more aggressive in our approach.
From a political perspective, clearly the reason that Trump is doing this is because his best issue is immigration. And especially right now, at a moment where his other best issue previously had been the economy, he's completely underwater on the economy. New polling out just today shows that he's underwater by 29 points among independents on the economy. So utterly cratering in terms of his best issue. And so he clearly has a vested interest, or views himself as having a vested interest in doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on immigration. And so this case here is basically the hill he's looking to die on because it represents his broader effort. He sees it as being more politically advantageous for him. And so can I have your reaction to the fact that really this is what he wants to do by design, is defy the Supreme Court, defy these other federal courts, knowing full well that this might be this last refuge that he has in terms of some area of popularity with the vast majority of Americans?
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, look, I think I think people need to be aware that he is going to continue to defy and do whatever the hell he wants because he thinks he has the power and control of the Congress. This marriage between the Congress, Elon Musk, who's now going to fund essentially primary opponents against Republicans that don't agree with whatever Donald Trump says, has created the exact moment that you've been describing. It's a moment where they're going to continue to defy the court, defy the norms, destroy our institutions, try to tear apart our justice system. They're now cutting deals with all these different legal and law firms, as you know, getting pro bono work. It's totally upside down. And so we've just got to do, I think, a better job of calling out each and every lie and not waiting around for someone else to come out and save us. No one else is coming. Like, we're it. We've got to get more engaged. And I think more and more folks need to get aggressive on taking on the Trump administration, not just us in Congress, but across the country, the public, our institutions. I'm really happy of what you're starting to see by some institutions pushing back, by what you're seeing out there with Bernie Sanders and Alexandria and so many others. That momentum that you're seeing at these rallies, people want us to fight, and that's what we're trying to do.
And by the way, I know that there might be this sense among Democrats, at least to look at this and say, "Oh, this isn't the fight we should pick. We always lose on immigration. We should focus on the economy." Look, it would be one thing if this was October of 2026 and the main issue that was pressing voters right now was the economy. But at a moment right now where we are facing a blatant unfolding constitutional crisis right before our eyes, where the president is disappearing legal residents, not even the people who he, by the way, would not have the authority to disappear even if they were undocumented, but these are legal residents who he's disappearing to a foreign country. If that doesn't represent such a massive threat to our country, to the very concept of democracy, if that doesn't prove that what he is trying to do is turn the U.S. into Russia, where he can disappear political opponents, anybody who he doesn't see as politically advantageous for him, then I don't know what else would betray that. And so I'm glad that you have this sense of fight on this issue, because, I had gone back and forth on whether it's smart to talk about this kind of thing or whether we should just, pivot to the economy, because, looking at polling, for example, would suggest that the economy is what drives voters and what motivates voters the most. But look, if there's any issue that I think we have a moral, and by the way, I think the polling would reflect this too, but a moral obligation to discuss as we talk about the dismantling of our democracy in real time, this is chief among them.
That's right. Look, this is a bigger issue. This is beyond immigration, right? This is literally about human rights of people in this country that are here legally. Whether they're full citizens or legal residents, the president of the United States cannot unilaterally defy the courts and send people in this country to foreign prisons. And that is at the center of what this fight is about. The economy, Donald Trump is already tanking. We're going to continue to talk about that. We're going to continue to talk about these tax cuts for billionaires. That is a central message. At the same time, we can have more than one fight at once.
Right.
We've got to make sure we take this on.
And so now, as it relates to the request for this Codell, when do you expect a response from James Comer? Is this something that he can allow to languish? Is there something that suggests that he has to respond within X amount of days? What are we looking at here?
We're going to keep following up. So we're hopeful to check back in with him first thing tomorrow morning. We've given him a day. We want his team to look at it. We're reaching out already. We're talking to other members. So we're going to be on this and continue to try to get a response as soon as possible. Because if he's going to deny this Codell and deny our official trip, then we're going to have to take other actions.
All right. Well, Congressman, again, look, I mentioned this at the top, and I think it's worth reiterating here, but I appreciate, you taking aggressive action. And in the same way that we saw, for example, Cory Booker put his body on the line when he was standing up there for 25 hours to be able to break through in this media environment and say his piece in a way that is going to actually garner some attention and to literally stand up for what's right. I just want to show some appreciation for what you guys are doing here, and again, putting your bodies on the line, going, making this pledge to be able to go out to El Salvador here and do what's right and keep the spotlight on this issue that absolutely deserves it. So, appreciate you taking the time today and you fighting this battle here.
Thanks so much. You too.